What's up guys, Chris here from Wex Photo Video. Now for me, when it comes to filming on DSLRs and mirrorless cameras, the big sort of benefit for filming on those sort of cameras is that they are so portable, so compact, lightweight, and they keep me agile as a camera operator and as a filmmaker. So when it comes to choosing bits of kit to go along with these cameras that are going to induce movement into my shots, I want those bits of kit to sort of replicate the same sort of ease of use and flexibility is what these smaller cameras give me. I'm talking gimbals, sliders, jibs, you name it, I want them to be easy for me to use, especially if I'm going to be out shooting on my own, if I'm traveling, I don't want to be lugging around lots of bits of kit. And that's what brings me to this. It is the Rhino ROV, might be called ROV, I don't know, I think ROV sounds a bit cooler. Slider. Now, I've been using this for about a week, so I thought it'd be a good opportunity to tell you how I found using it, and also, of course, show you some of its features. But before we get stuck into it, I just want to say my big 3 selling points for this slider. Number 1, look at the size of it. It is so streamlined and compact that it can easily fit into the majority of my backpacks, backpacks that are made for photography cameras, DSLRs, mirrorless cameras, a lot smaller than your traditional video bags, and this fits in very easily. Number 2, it is a motorized slider that you can control wirelessly via Bluetooth from your smartphone. And number 3, it has an internal rechargeable battery that after one charge gives you around 24 hours of use. 24 hours, who is shooting for that long? But yeah, those 3 points, they all go back to what I was just saying. I want something that's gonna do the job, is lightweight and portable, and something that I just don't have to think about too much. So that sort of lifespan with the battery ticks that last box. So let's get to it, let's see what it's about. Now the Rhino ROV slider comes in 2 sizes. There's one that gives you 16 inches of travel, and then the one that I have, which gives you 8 inches of travel. And this one is called the Everyday. So firstly, the build quality on this thing does feel fantastic. It's got that gunmetal finish and it is very sleek. It's also pretty minimalist. We've got 4 all-terrain folding legs, 2 connections. One is basically to power it via that USB port, and the other one is for the time lapses on your camera. We've got a power button and a slider stage, and that's really it. The motor, the battery, and all those electronics, etc. are all hidden inside this unit. All you can see is that drive belt pulling the stage along. One thing that I find quite annoying is that the ball head that comes with the ROV Pro, it has a proprietary mount, which means that you're gonna have to switch base plates on your camera every time you go from this slider to, say, your tripod. I'm not really a fan of that. So I'd recommend swapping out that ball head for something that's going to work with the rest of your gear. Right then, let me show you how this thing actually works then. It is an electric slider, so of course the first thing you got to do is turn it on, which sounds a bit odd. But actually what you can do before you turn it on, just make sure you've got charge in there. It's only one button. If you tap that button, then these little LED lights will light up. There's a maximum of 5. If you've got 5 lighting up, then hey presto, you've got pretty much a full charge, which we have here, which is great. Press and hold the button and then it will turn on the slider. That's really the only functions it has, on and off, and also status check. You'll just notice that it did move a little bit then, back and forth. That's just to say I'm actually powered up and ready to go. Next, turn your Bluetooth on your smartphone on, go into the Rhino ROV Motion app, and then you present with 2 controls, or 2 modes, let's say. One mode is for operating the slider when you've got a camera such as a DSLR or mirrorless camera, like this GH5S, and the other is if you're using your smartphone to control the slider, but also use it for actually filming. So the Pro version comes with that extra ball head, so you can attach your DSLRs, your mirrorless cameras, but both Pro and non-Pro version come with a mount for your smartphone, just goes on there. We're going to obviously use the DSLR mirrorless operating mode, because obviously that's not a smartphone. So once we connect, we're straight into the main menu system. There's not actually that many controls in there, which does make life a bit easier. So let's simply start off with duration, which is basically speed. Quickest we can go is 6 seconds. I press start, it goes ahead, and it also counts down how long I've got left on there. And then we get to the end and we're done. And the slowest I can do, just as a standard linear slide, is 22 seconds. Obviously it's very different, and then what you'll notice is the motors are a lot quieter as well, because it's not working as hard, not generating that high frequency sort of pitch. Now this system is actually, even at full speed, is quite quiet, but at full speed I still wouldn't have it too close to your talent if you're recording sound. So there we go, that's its basic functionality. Now let's move on to ramp. Now what I'm going to do, I'm going to go back to a 9 second slide, and we're going to do 100% ramp. Ramp is basically, if you think of speed ramping, if you're an editor and whatnot, it basically slowly starts, builds up to full speed, and then slowly comes to a stop. Gives it a much smoother motion. So this is a 9 second slide, 100% ramp. See, it's at full speed, past halfway, then we'll start to slow down and it'll ease into a stop. And if you've got 100% ramp, or the more you ramp, the longer you can do a slide. So we can now do a 33-second slide. And what's nice is, let me just stop that. Actually, before I move on to that, one thing to note is that you cannot say just go from one end to point B, which is in the middle. It has to go from one end to another, one end to the other end. That's the only way you can operate this thing. You can stop it midway, but it has to be manual. You just press cancel and it will stop. But other than that, you can't set like an actual, like, I want it to stop at this exact point every time. You can only stop it halfway, which is a bit of a shame really. So what I can do, because we're stopped we're stopped a little bit out. At the top, we've got a move to home and a move to end. Move to home, we'll bring it to the side with the lights on. Move to end, the opposite end. Just means you can easily pull it side to side, because with this system you can't actually just manhandle the stage on the slider and push it yourself. I mean, physically you probably could, but it's not designed for that and you will end up breaking it. So you do always have to use your phone. You've also, if we just pull that to a quicker duration, maybe let's go 15 seconds with a 30% ramp. You've also got the option to loop. So basically it'll get to one end, its end point, and then it will just come back, and it will just do that indefinitely. What's actually quite nice is that I've given this slider a command. I could actually turn my phone off or disconnect my phone from the slider. They don't have to stay paired once you've given that command. So if you're doing a sort of corporate interview, you know, you don't have to keep your phone attached to this thing and drain your battery on your smartphone. Now I find this feature really good for if you're doing, like I say again, corporate interviews, you know, bog standard talking heads. If you set this up with your B camera just to the side, you could just move it back and forth indefinitely on a loop. Till pretty much, you know, unless you've been running for 24 hours, it will last the whole thing. Now, of course, there's this thing in filmmaking, as we all know, that you shouldn't just move the camera for the sake of it. You should have a reason to move the camera. But on the flip side, we also know how boring corporate shoots can be. You know, your bog standard talking heads. Of course, I'm not slating them. That's the majority of the sort of work that I do, but artistically, they aren't that interesting, especially if you've got a dry topic that your talent is talking about. Having something like this off to the side, just creating that motion, does just add some, one, production value, but two, just makes something that could be quite dry content-wise a bit more interesting. Now, the smartphone mode allows you to control both the ROV slider and your smartphone camera's settings. And it does make getting some quick shots and time lapses pretty straightforward. The ROV will only move the slider when the camera isn't taking the image, which is also a nice touch. Now, you can actually get time lapses when using your DSLR or mirrorless cameras, but I can't show you that because I don't have the remote shutter cable for my camera. But here you can see all of the options that you get in the app for control. And that's pretty much the whole system I've just showed you there. What negative points can I think of? Yeah, one, you can't just push it and slide it. Two, you can't set custom stop points. And what else would I say? Being really picky, like the feet, even though they're all-terrain legs and they're really great, they've got loads of settings that you can move them at, but the downside is they have loads of settings that you can move them at. So getting all four level can sometimes be a bit tricky. Yeah, I don't really have it, and obviously that ball head mount isn't great because it's proprietary, swap that out and then you'd be golden. But other than that, I've actually really enjoyed using it. It fits into pretty much any of my small camera bags with my camera kit. I've even had it, you know, in Snowdonia, in the cold, in the damp, and it hasn't batted an eyelid. It's been very, very reliable. So I hope you've enjoyed this video anyway. If you've got any questions, do pop them in the comments and I personally will come back to you. But if you don't want to speak to me for whatever reason, and you want maybe even a quicker answer because I'm not around, do just give us a call or pop into one of our stores. I'm always a big advocate of human interaction, so please do just ask away. And yeah, hopefully give us a like, give us a subscribe if you're on YouTube, if you enjoyed this thing, and yeah, I will see you in the next one.